Good evening. We're going to call the meeting for Akron City Council to order. At this time, our clerk will read the roll.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor. Freeman. Aye. Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal. Omobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
All members are present except for Connor.
At this time, for those who voluntarily wish to do so, will you please stand as we are led in prayer by Councilman Freeman. Immediately following our prayer, I'm going to ask if Councilman Lombardo will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
We'll pray together. Father, we thank you for our country. We thank you for our city. We thank you, God, for those people that you put in our lives that we call family. And we're zealous for each and every one of those things. But most importantly, may we be zealous for your heart. We ask, God, that this evening you might show us truly who you are. You might show us who we are, God, that you might do those things which are pleasing in thy sight. We pray in your name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The minutes of our previously held meeting have been provided. Are there any additions or corrections?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Abstain.
Omobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
The minutes pass 11-0 with one abstention.
Before you, you have a copy of the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Omobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
The consent agenda passes 12-0.
We will move into old business, planning and economic development. Councilman Fusco.
Time on the agenda?
Time will be granted. Public safety, Councilman Kamer.
Thank you, Madam President. Continue time.
Time will be granted. We do have one piece that is in committee of a whole. So at this time, I am just going to ask if we have a motion.
Motion to go into committee as a whole?
Second.
All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Omobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
The motion passes 12-0.
At this time, we also need to make a motion so that I, as President of Council, can chair the committee.
Motion to have the President of Council, Margaret Somerville, chair the committee as a whole.
Second.
All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Omobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
The motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Clerk, will you read in item number 1?
This is offered by President Somerville. Resolution approving and confirming the appointment by Akron City Council of Donzella Aneskowitz, Amokai Okolo, Diane Lewis, Caitlin Castle, Robert Gippin, and Kemp Boyd to the Akron Citizens Police Oversight Board as established by Charter Section 68A and declaring an emergency.
Do we have a motion on the floor as relates to this vote?
I move that we approve.
Okay, so we do have a motion for approval. Can we get a second, please?
Second.
All in favor? Roll call.
Baylor,
Abstain.
Freeman,
Aye.
Fusco,
Point of order. There's a point of order, Madam Chair.
Point of order.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Okay, we have a point of order, Councilwoman Mosley.
Thank you. So Councilwoman Baylor abstained. She has to give a reason for abstention, if she could do that.
Councilwoman Baylor, at this time, there's been a point of order in asking for a reasoning for your abstention.
Okay, I prepared something, and this is what I'm gonna say, and this is all I'm gonna say. I would like to express my opinion and reasoning for my abstention today for the individuals to serve on the Citizens Police Review Committee. As time has passed since our last vote on this issue, I have had an opportunity to review, reflect, and recognize the conflict in my personal life with one of the individuals that we are voting on here today. I further understand the problems within this ordinance that doesn't give Akron City Council members an opportunity to compromise on issues within this ordinance that we may disagree on. This is very unfortunate and disheartening because I fully believe in a Citizens Review Committee, and I believe the citizens of Akron have shown their desire for one to be put in place. But as it stands and has been stated in a public forum by a member of City Council and one of the authors of this ordinance, I believe in the Citizens Review Committee. I quote from the author. I believe in the Citizens Review Committee, but I don't like the language in it. So as a precaution in the interest of ethical responsibilities, I hereby will be abstaining or have abstained from voting on this matter to seat the current 6 citizens on the Citizens Police Review Board for personal reasons. I regret making this decision, but I think it's in the best interest of a clear understanding of political ethics on my part and integrity. I know this decision may upset some people. I wish the authors would have done a better job of creating an ordinance with more inclusive, knowledgeable individuals in the area and give options like voting for individuals instead of a block of 6 by a supermajority of 9 city council members. I further regret this ordinance did not take in consideration that people have different opinions and personal relationships. I fully support our police department and law enforcement as a whole, but I also support transparency and accountability. I also hope that if the city council cannot implement a police citizens review committee, that we come together as a community, city council, police development, FOP union members, and administration to make changes to this ordinance or create a new police citizens review committee ordinance that is more conducive to the citizens' request, our responsibilities, and expectations. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilwoman Mosley?
With all due respect, Madam President, that's not a reason for an abstention. I respect her and her eloquent writing, but that's not a reason for an abstention. If it's personal, she needs to tell us what's the personal conflict that she did not recognize months ago when this came out.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Fusco?
Yeah, I'd like to just, point of order, we are in the middle of a vote. Given everything that's gone on here, we're in the middle of a vote. I would like to ask that we reread it in and start the voting again so that everyone is clear on what's happening, on what we're voting on. So please, if our clerk can please read in the ordinance one more time and then conduct the vote as we were in the middle of a vote.
This is off.
I just want to make a point of order. Before we vote again, I think we need clarity on this abstention point. If there is a personal conflict, that may be a legitimate reason for an abstention, but most of the speech that was given was about disagreeing with the charter amendment. I don't believe we're allowed to not vote on something because we disagree with the charter. And so I think before we vote, I think it would be helpful to get clarification as to whether that is an acceptable reason to abstain.
So at this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask if we have a member of law who could come and read our law so that we can get clarification.
All right, good evening, everyone. All right, you are looking at Rule 5.8. Can you hear me? Oh, sorry. 5.8. Let me just read the rules so everybody is clear. Unless a conflict of interest...
Excuse me, can you speak in the mic, please? I can't hear you. Is it on?
Yes, it is. Can you hear me?
Yeah, just speak up just a little bit. Thank
All
you.
right. Unless a conflict of interest or other legitimate reason prohibits a member of council from voting on a particular matter, it is expected that all members will vote on items upon which they could vote. Abstention shall not be used by any member of council in order to avoid taking a position on an issue. It shall be in order for the president or any other member of council to question another member's abstention if they believe it is in violation of this rule by making a point of order, as described in Rule 4.12. In that instance, the abstaining member would be given an opportunity to explain the conflict of interest or other factor that prohibited them from voting on the issue. The president shall enforce this rule up to and including discipline as set forth in Section 9. I believe that is the entirety of the abstention. Just for further information, the other legitimate reason is not defined in the rule.
Okay, so at this time, we're going to have our clerk read in item number 1.
This is offered by President Somerville. Resolution approving and confirming the appointment by Akron City Council of Donzella Aneskowitz, Amokai Okolo, Diane Lewis, Caitlin Castle, Robert Gippin, and Kemp Boyd to the Akron Citizens Police Oversight Board as established by Charter Section 68A and declaring an emergency.
Okay. So at this time, we can repeat the motion. Yes.
Thank you, Madam President. First of all, I want to let everyone know I apologize that I missed last week's meeting due to illness. And actually, I'm kind of glad that I missed last week's meeting. Gave me time to take a deep dive into this situation and this legislation. And I had an overwhelming amount of citizens call me, and a lot of things were said on this council floor last week, so I took a deep dive into some of the candidates that are being selected, and I'm just saying some of them, not all of them. And I believe there is some evidence, could be, where we have some campaign contributions that are made to a few of these council members in this horseshoe. So, I mean, what made me really take a deep dive into this is my colleague from Ward 4 that brought in the resolution that we really didn't discuss today, but I was able to read it and really dive deep into it. And moving forward, obviously a couple of these colleagues of mine have been really pushing the slate, and particularly one candidate. So moving forward, I will be voting no. And I will be voting no on each different piece, the mayor's piece and the city council piece, until I continue to do my research and we can move forward with a transparent citizens review board, because there are some campaign contributions that have been made to council members that are really pushing the agenda for the citizens review board.
Councilman Freeman?
I apologize. I had voted earlier thinking that we were going to the resolution that was under public safety, so I have to correct my vote. I see that we're going after the one that is in the committee as a whole. So totally my fault on the way I voted. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Are there any other comments at this time? Councilman Mallett?
I'm just getting this, so so I'm just going to slow down here for a second. But Mr. Okolo has donated to my campaign, right? I don't know if that's what my colleague is referencing, but I can say that no contribution that has ever been made to me has ever influenced a single thing that I've done here. I have been very clear that I think Mr. Okolo is incredibly well qualified. And he has made comments that I am uncomfortable with, that bother me. But the problem that we have in this community is that there is a deep level of pain and anger and frustration, particularly in the black community, in the interactions with police in this community and across the country. And that has been true since the 60s and before. And we are not going to make progress in this community as long as we say that some perspectives are invalid because there have been comments made that reflect that frustration and anger. We have to engage with those feelings, particularly because that is the whole point of an advisory board. Please. So, folks can say whatever they would like to say. But the reality is that when I called it institutional racism, it is because I would like folks to reflect on the fact that when several white men are the ones who are saying that a young black man does not have what is needed for this body because his comments are out of line, that we should reflect on what privilege and what perspective brought us to that comment and that position. So I don't know what kind of facts or opinions were reflected in my colleagues' statements, but I want to say that.
I'd like to call the question.
Okay, we have a motion to call the question. Councilman Mobley, did you have?
Yeah, I just want to say a couple of things. Full disclosure, I think when you're in public service, you certainly get to meet a lot of people. There are a number of people on that we have selected. One I worked with for a number of years. Okolo, I have known since he was a young child. Again, I've stated publicly that he's not my relative of any type, but I would have loved to have had a son like Okolo, and I've said that publicly many times. The mother has just done an outstanding job with both of her sons. One is an engineer and one is a lawyer. And I have the deepest respect because they've had no trouble with the police. So that is said. I know Kemp Boyd, I know Bob Gibbon. I know a number of these people that I've worked with on committees and in groups, and I know the quality of their work. So when we were selecting folks, that was not outside of my realm of knowledge, but it was because we wanted people with good skills, and they all stated that they could have an open mind and they could make a fair, impartial decision. And I believe that these individuals all can. Now, I said something last week that I have talked about, and I will apologize on this floor for. I accused the police officers of murder. That was a poor choice of word. I did change it to say he was killed at the hands of the police. Now, let me state for the record that we, and I'm prepared, folks, to move forward because we have a lot of work to do. this appointing of this board is just the beginning of the work that we have to do. I mean, we have some major steps to take beyond what we are doing tonight. And I stand by every single person that we have recommended. I have thanked the president for allowing me to serve on the committee. And I am not really sure exactly what the councilwoman is speaking to, but I know I have been completely open. I haven't received any contributions from anybody yet, but I am open. So I don't have any contributions to disclose, so that's not a problem that I have. So I'm not really sure if there's anything else that I need to state. But again, for the record, there are a number of police officers I know. We have good officers. Unfortunately, we had a terrible incident that happened in this community in June of 2022. And we all have to live with that. And we all have to come together and try to figure out how do we get beyond this. And that's what we're trying to do by seating this board. So I don't know what else to say, but I stand by all of the candidates that we have recommended. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other comments? We have a motion on the floor to call the question. Can I get a second? Okay. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor?
Aye.
Freeman?
Nay.
Fusco? Yes,
Okay.
my understanding what this is the motion to call the question.
Wait a minute, so we already had a motion on the floor, though. But we already had a motion on the floor.
Yes, the motion was to call the question, which is to cease debate and call for the vote. Okay. Baylor?
Aye.
Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco? Holland?
Aye.
Kamer? Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Amobian?
Aye.
And Somerville.
Aye.
The motion passes 12-0. Okay. Just a reminder, we are still in committee of the whole, so the motion on the floor was to approve the resolution that was read in. Would you like me to read that again?
Yes, please.
This is a resolution approving and confirming the appointment by Akron City Council of Donzella Aneskowitz, Amokai Okolo, Diane Lewis, Caitlin Castle, Robert Gippen, and Kemp Boyd to the Akron Citizens Police Oversight Board as established by Charter Section 68A and declaring an emergency. The motion was to vote on this a favorable report as committee of the whole, correct? Councilwoman Amobian, I believe you
Yes.
made that motion before the,
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Thank you.
Was there a second?
and there was a second, so we're going to start that vote here. Baylor?
Abstain.
Freeman?
Nay.
Fusco? Holland?
Aye.
Kamer? Lombardo?
Nay.
McKittrick?
Nay.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Amobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
Okay, that motion, the vote on that motion was 6-5 with 1 abstention.
And we still don't know what that
Motion.
was for.
So at this time, we need a motion.
A motion to
Come out of.
come out
Committee.
of committee as a whole.
Yep, so there's a motion on the floor to come out as committee as a whole. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Baylor?
Aye.
Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco? Holland?
Aye.
Kamer? Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Amobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
You are out of committee of the whole and you are back in regular council session.
Okay, thank you so much. So at this time, we need to read it in again for a vote? Is that it, or we're?
It would stay in committee if the...
It's going to stay in committee. Okay, so that is going to conclude. Councilman Neal?
Can we get some clarification from the law department? Where does this leave us? I mean, because we're still in violation of the charter. We haven't approved it. How much longer are we?
Well, at this time, you've resolved out of committee of the whole, so the piece remains in committee of the whole because there was not a majority favorable report on the piece. So it stays in committee.
Councilman Neal?
I understand that part, but I was hoping we got some clarification where we stand since we're in violation of the charter. Where does that leave us as body, as a city? Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Where does that leave us since we're in violation of the charter? Have we defined what that violation, what the penalties of that are?
I believe you asked the question last week,
Yes, ma'am, I
Councilman
did.
Neal, and the charter does not specify any repercussion for the city council not adhering to the time constraint under the charter. So it's pure speculation what the repercussion would be.
So at this time, that concludes our old business. We're now going to move into new legislation.
Item number 1, offered by Councilman Neal. Resolution requesting Akron City Council and the city's administration submit itself to an independent audit by the Ohio Ethics Commission and the Ohio Attorney General's Office for the purpose of reviewing City Council and the administration's policies, practices, and procedures in order to reestablish the trust and confidence of the citizens of Akron and business community partners and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman?
The committee requested, well, there was a 2-2 vote, so this would be referred to next week's agenda. Mr. Neal was here to speak, but he had a lousy connection. So we take time.
Okay, time will be granted.
Item number 2, offered by Mayor Horrigan. Ordinance authorizing an agreement between the AFSCME Local 1360 Bargaining Unit and the City of Akron regarding employee wage increases and benefit changes through calendar year 2025 and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman?
The committee's report's favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
This will just finalize the approval between the city and AFSCME. They will be receiving the same benefits as all our other bargaining units. A few weeks ago, we passed an identical piece of legislation for those that are non-bargaining, and with that, we ask for its passage.
Okay. Thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor?
Aye.
Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco? Holland?
Aye.
Kamer? Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Amobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
This ordinance passes 12-0. Item 2A is offered by Freeman. Resolution adopting an annual operating budget for the fiscal year 2023 and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman?
Time.
Time will be granted.
Item 2B, offered by Freeman. Ordinance to make the annual appropriation for the current expenses, and other expenditures, and the capital outlays of the City of Akron for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2023, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman?
One comment, but what is time, and then the other comment is Mr. Fricker indicated our budget hearings start Tuesday at 3 p.m. that we'll be receiving, not through paper, but we're receiving PDFs of departments' goals and objectives, and then the actual budget itself. He said that'll probably be in our mailbox the next couple days.
Okay, thank you so much. Time will be granted.
Item number 3, offered by Mosley. Ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to bid, use CUE bids, State of Ohio bids, Sourcewell bids, Omnia Public Partners public sector bids, and/or other such public bids or consortiums, and enter into a contract or contracts for the purchase, lease, purchase, and/or refurbishment of various vehicles and equipment, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Mosley?
The committee's requesting time.
Time will be granted.
Item number 4, offered by Mosley, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service to submit an application and enter into an agreement with the Summit Akron Solid Waste Management Authority for a community recycling access grant in furtherance of Mayor Horgan's objectives of supporting new and existing community recycling projects, authorizing the use of the funds if awarded, and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
Yes, the committee's report is favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Nothing further.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Freeman. Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 12-0. Item number 5 is a substitute offered as an amendment, offered by Mosley. Resolution declaring it necessary to improve Miller Road between the termini of Ridgewood Road and West Market Street by resurfacing and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
The committee's requesting time.
time will be granted.
Item number 6, offered by Freeman, ordinance authorizing the purchasing agent to enter into a contract or contracts without the formality of publicly advertising for bids with the Macomb Group for the purchase, installation, and configuration of 6 Bettis Electric, formerly EIM, electric motor valve actuators, which are necessary to meet water treatment specifications mandated by the Environmental Protection Agency, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman,
Consent, please.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 7, offered by Mayor Horgan, Mosley, and Holland. Resolution expressing support for the mission of Akron Waterways Renewed to invest in Akron's environmental future by building infrastructure for the next century that will protect public health and maintain water of the highest quality in the most cost-effective manner while providing local jobs for the citizens of Akron. Expressing support for the proposed Third Amendment to the 2014 consent decree as lodged by the United States with the United States District Court for the Northern District of Ohio in case number 509CV00272 on February 13th, 2023, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman,
Committee's report's favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Back in 2014, the city entered into a consent decree, and that decree has served us well, and this will be the third amendment to that decree. We talked today about another tunnel in Akron that's going to be produced, and because of the hard work of a lot of folks, this one tunnel, we did some flowage testing, and the tunnel is going to be reduced in size to its original plan. Going to save the city $66 million, and so with that, we ask for its passage.
Councilman Malik,
Motion to pass this as mayor and council as a whole.
can we get a second? Okay, so we have a motion on the floor from mayor and council as a whole. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Freeman. Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This resolution passes 12-0.
That concludes our new legislation for this evening. We're now going to move to the portion of our meeting that we refer to as our public comment period. At this time, I'm going to ask all those who are here in chambers with us who are wishing to participate, if you please stand so that you may be sworn in by a member of our law department.
Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, "I do." Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And I do believe that we do have individuals who are in the hallway, so if you are in the hallway and you have signed a form, we are still going to allow you an opportunity to speak before this body as well. Just going to ask when you hear your name that you approach the podium, and you will have 3 minutes to speak to this body. Yes, Councilman.
Just one point briefly. When I was entering the building, I believe there are people who are outside the building who were in the doorway who were not able to come in because the building's at capacity. I wanted to make sure those folks have an opportunity to speak as well if they're interested in.
I believe our deputy clerk was downstairs gathering up forms, but I can certainly
Okay, I
check
just
with her.
wanted to confirm.
So yeah, we've taken care of that. Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
At this time, we're going to start with Reverend John Beatty.
Madam President and members of the council, I want to again advertise this book. It helps us to understand who we are and what we're doing. I'm Reverend John Beatty, 2047 Wyndham Road, Akron 44313. We citizens of Akron live in a police state that all too frequently suffers from legal lynching by some Akron police officers. Thanks to an all-powerful police union, these legal lynchings take place by rogue police officers inducing terror on the black population to keep them quiet and docile, despite widespread poverty, lack of safe, healthy housing, lack of jobs, low wages, and inadequate medical care, the presence of lead in their drinking water, and one of the highest rates of evictions in the nation, and the presence of healthy food deserts. This police state serves a caste system within a hierarchical structure with black citizens on the bottom and white citizens on the top. Within this caste system, there is a class system with wealthy white men managing powerful white corporations such as First Energy at the top. There is reason why no city building in Akron has solar panels on its roof. And there is a reason why oil and gas wells lie close to the shore and underneath our drinking water in Lake Rockwell. The job of the Akron Police Department is to protect this system, but at what cost? One conversation I had with a black policeman some time ago explains why we have so few black police in the city of Akron. I think most of them are here tonight. As I recall, this policeman said, "I've never raised my baton against anyone in all the decades I've worked in this city. But if a black policeman slips up and violates police policy, he never gets a second chance. But I have seen white police officers who violate police policy again and again, yet they are still on the force." There was pain in this policeman's voice. There is a special unit in the Akron Police Department. Its name is not Scorpion, but SNUD. Its official name, I believe, is Street Narcotics Undercover Department. But some of the officers in that detail have another name for it, Snatching Up, NIGGERS Daily. Under the union contract, the APD is actually creating poverty, dividing families, controlling young black men in prison, and sentencing them to joblessness for the rest of their lives with the scarlet letter felon on their dossier. The police union is too strong. It even controls certain white men in this room. A caste system has to have certain folks on the top and certain folks on the bottom for the caste system to work. We must open our eyes and our hearts to what's happening to our city.
Thank you, Reverend Beatty. Is Vincent Taylor here with us?
Good evening, Madam President and council members. My name is Vincent Taylor, and I was born and raised here in Akron, Ohio. I'm here to do what the chief, Steve Marlette, said he wholeheartedly agrees with, and what the mayor agrees with, and that is to non-violently protest the actions or the inactions of this council. First of all, I would like to apologize to this council, to these members, and to the TV audience. I want to say I'm sorry. I'm sorry because it took me so long to come down and to join my fellow citizens in petitioning this body to do something. And I'm sorry that it took me so long to come down here and to say enough is enough. Today I sat here and I listened, and the only thing I can do is think that this council is completely broken. If this council is broken, our city is broken. And I want to say our city is completely broken. It looks like we have no leadership at all in this city. It looks like we can't even agree on a simple citizens review board. Why? Because of one man, because of Mr. Okola, who one of your members said was the victim of institutional racism. This institution, institutional racism, which means that this council will not elect him or choose him because he is black. That's what institutional racism means. Not that he's black in skin, but black in mind, black in ideals, black in attitude, black in his style, black in his work. And we are proud about our diversity initiatives. But when somebody thinks differently than we do, then we exclude them. That's not diversity. And Akron has no reason to be proud about our diversity initiatives. Mr. Okola deserves to be on that board because he's a young man with education and views that can be impacted on that committee. He does not have to agree with the police department. He does not have to agree with narrow-minded individuals who want him to follow their path. So I just want to say that we need to do something in this city, and we need to make change now.
Mr. Taylor, thank you so much. Pastor Gregory Harrison.
Dang, I gotta go after Pastor Taylor. Man. Want to say this week we celebrate 58 years since Bloody Sunday. 58 years since Bloody Sunday. On March 7, 1965, we had 600 people marching from Selma to Montgomery for voting rights. Now, this was in 1965, but in 1964, there was a civil rights bill that was passed. Even though it was law, it did not do enough. In Alabama, there were 2% of black folks registered to vote because behind the law, there was a system that dissuaded them from voting. There was a system that threatened them so they wouldn't register to vote. There was a system that was in play that negated the law. They were marching to Montgomery, and they were beaten, and the world watched. The world seen what happened on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. 2 days later, there were 2,000 people. 3 weeks later, there were 25,000 people that made it to Montgomery. But what happened on Bloody Sunday when the world watched was 80 cities broke out in protest. We are here because there is no justice. And what justice looks like is not simply the police department. Justice is the laws in this city, the system in this city that is oppressive, the system of this city that keeps people poor, uneducated, that regulates people to certain areas. It's a system. What does justice look like to you? And that's what the council has to ask themselves. What does justice look like? What is going on is not justice. There is an opportunity, but there's also some landmines. If you care about the businesses in this city, if you care about neighborhoods in this city, some bridges need to be built now, because in a few months, we're going to be looking for partnerships, we're going to be looking for alliances, and what's going to happen is the world will watch, and because there is no justice here, people will come, and if there's no justice, there's no peace. So let's think about, do we want to build this city or do we want to rebuild this city? Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Harrison. And I'm so sorry if I mispronounced the name, but it looks like the first name is Sir.
Thank you, Madam President. My name is Sir LeBert Jr. I'm the Prison Ministry Manager for the Unitarian Universalist Association, owner of a local publishing company, Curio Publishing, former president of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Akron. I'm a 2019 Night Arts Challenge winner. Between 2018 and 2021, I served on a commission for the Unitarian Universalist Association to study and develop for the institution solutions for the institutional racism active within the denomination. Our report has positively impacted over 1,000 congregations, reverends, seminary students, 200,000 members in the U.S. and 600,000 worldwide. I say that to make clear my understanding and authority on the subject of institutional racism. And what we witnessed last week at council, the collusion between members and the police to block a young black attorney due to his needed critical perspective on policing, allegedly due to a word, is textbook institutional racism. Considering the deep need for such a voice on the board, that was something that was understood by scores of members of this community. So I got a little bit more time, so I'm gonna make a personal appeal. Councilman Mike Freeman, you might not remember me. After my family moved out from our church, House of the Lord, I was a young member of the chapel on Fur Hill in the late 90s and early 2000s. I remember the work and care you and your wife, Karen, invested into helping urban youth at that church and through your work at First Glance. I remember friends and I viewing you as a role model, the storm-chasing, cool city councilman. Last week, you mentioned your inability to get past a word allegedly used by Imokai Okolo. My question is that the forgiveness we learned at the chapel? Is that the forgiveness the youth at First Glance can expect from you? From our city? I think we all know better. Councilman, our chair, and fellow council, the ones I don't know. I'll say this. After I went to Ferguson in 2014, I returned to a city where it felt like there was a freeze on grant money for black artists. There was certainly no acknowledgement of racism as a public health crisis. And people in this room, I won't name names, were afraid to even say Black Lives Matter. Now, it's written on the road. And we have one of the most exciting opportunities for police oversight in the nation, because change, folks, comes from the margins. So stop playing with us. We're not playing with you. The emerging leaders and the constituents of this city want a progressive government, and we will have it. Vote for Imokai, for council, so we can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. LeBert. Is Stephanie Baker here with us?
Hello, I'm here again to repeat what's been said. A few council members have noted in closing remarks, it was even noted earlier this evening by Councilman Malik, the citizens of Akron do not have confidence in you. We come every week, you are not listening. The citizens believe in Okolo because his lived experience makes him invaluable to the board. I also don't really understand the votes against the slate or abstaining because you don't agree with the review board, or voting no for that matter. The city voted this through, and an overwhelming amount of people have spoken up that they want to be represented by Okolo. I mean, I do understand what you're doing. You're subverting the will of the citizens, and it's disgusting. Next, I'd like to speak in agreement on the opposition to the Ohio flat tax that came up last week. I agree that this is where you can help the people who make up the city, the working class of Akron. A flat tax is not fair. though it is considered to be equitable. 5% is more dear to those people who are sitting at or below the living wage, making a significant dent in the income they have to pay for healthcare, rent, childcare, with little left for savings. The savings that the upper class is reaping will be used to pay lobbyists to continue the income disparity that we see increase. A flat tax is bad for education, a flat tax is bad for healthcare, a flat tax is bad for supporting those with disabilities, a flat tax is bad for Akron, a flat tax is bad for Ohio. I would like to ask if the city's opposition will do anything for that, because I recognize that I come to council every week and you are not doing anything. What's Akron going to reflect at the state level? You do recognize that tax money is extremely important here, but fail to recognize it when you throw tax abatements to build ugly and unaffordable housing on formerly wild spaces. I want to conclude my remarks by repeating what I said last week. We see those of you who are selling out the citizens to the police and the polluters who do nothing to make Akron a place where anyone would want to live. I don't know why you want to be on council, but your legacy is racist, and we will remember you as such.
Thank you, Stephanie. Is Sarah Culver here with us?
Thank you, Madam President, and hello, council members. My name is Sarah Culver. I am the co-chair of our social justice ministries at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Akron, and I am here to speak to urge you to listen to the citizens of Akron, to listen to the organization that has been done, and to vote for Mr. Okolo on the council. Representation matters. Systemic racism is real. There's a history here in this city of a lot of racism, and there's a lot that needs to be undone. There's a lot of poverty and injustice happening, and to seat a board that represents the people that the people have asked for is vitally important to the health of this city. Racism harms all of us. It harms everyone. It doesn't matter the color of your skin, it harms us all. Yes, it harms some people lots more than other people, but it harms everyone, and we need to make amends for the past and move forward. This is an opportunity for this city to grow and redeem itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Culver. Anastasia?
Hello, Madam President and members of the board. I'm a transplant here to Akron, a longtime resident of Ohio, but I just moved to Ward 8 in Akron. And I know what's right and I know what's wrong. And believe it or not, I used to be 27 once. And I used to say things that I might regret now. And I've in fact called the police pigs. I've in fact called them worse. It's a slip up, but I will say that to not seat Mr. Okolo on the Citizens Oversight, on the Citizens Police Oversight Board is simply wrong. His lived experience is one that is necessary on that oversight board. Institutionalized racism is a fact in this country. It's how this country was set up. This country was set up on white supremacy culture. It's in all of our institutions. It's baked into every system. What I'm asking for this council to do is to use simple, common sense. If a person who could possibly be impacted and has the lived experience of being pulled over or accosted by the police, has that lived experience, and they can't live and they can't be on the oversight committee, I think we're missing the whole point of having a citizens oversight committee. Brief but true. Thank you very much for your time.
Anastasia, thank you. Dr. N.J. Akbar.
Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. N.J. Akbar, and I stand before you today to say, when will we do the people's will? Independent means just that, independent oversight. The people spoke loud and clearly. The people spoke loudly and clearly. You can't have the body who needs oversight calling the shots on who gets to manage them. It defies any attempt to fidelity of the will of the people of Akron. This body has the audacity to comment on any other body whose meetings are much better ran and doesn't reek of this racism that we observe here. We should be proud of our school board, and for the first time in the history of this city, there are 6 out of 7 members who are black, and we are unapologetic about our work to move the needle for the most marginalized among us. There's no wonder why there's such vitriolic response from the power players. These aren't independent issues. This is racism, and this is the crisis that we're talking about. We must do better. When people speak, we should listen. True equity is redistributing where people sit at the table. True equity is not consensus. It's the antithesis of consensus. Consensus has got us here in this mess that we call vulnerability and that we call the city of Akron. Our most vulnerable and most marginalized people among us are constantly left out. It's about that very way you make decisions and ensuring that equity decision-making happens when you prioritize the needs of those who historically have been excluded over those who hold power and positions. It's not about your job to abstain or hold up an independent oversight board being seated because you don't like the way the words or the charter amendment. You aren't sworn judges. You are city council. You're sworn to the will of the people. Wrong is wrong, even if everyone's doing it. Right is right, even if no one's doing it. These games have to stop. Appointing this board is just one example of the gamesmanship that occurs in the system that prevents progress. One person on the board who has a different opinion than you, that you disagree with, can't possibly determine the board's entire work unless it's just that. You're afraid that his intellect and understanding of the system will illuminate just the issues that you don't want the people to know. This is what Elevate Akron highlights. Systemic exclusion of black Akronites. It's about closing the doors of people and their independent thoughts. I stand with my brother. I am a strong black man too. What they do to us, what they do to him is what they do to all of us. I am Imokai Ukolo, and I hope we all stand up and say, I am Imokai Ukolo. I am Imokai Ukolo. I am Imokai Ukolo.
Thank you so much. We're going to ask that you please maintain order in the chamber. I appreciate it. Thank you. Refrain from clapping so that people in the hallway can hear their names as well. Pastor Nanette Pitt.
Good evening. Krenant Molweni. I am a white South African. I've introduced myself to you many times before. I live in Ward 4. I serve a church in Ward 1. I lived in this town since 2015. I came to America in 2000. I became a citizen up in Cleveland in 2018. I was one of the people who petitioned you with the IDSU 10 legislation. I would like to recognize
my fellow petitioners, Linda Amobian, Shamus Malik, Dr. Roderick Pounds, and Reverend Dr. Joyce Penfield. I'd like to recognize the NAACP for their work, the Freedom Bloc, and all of the many, many, many people who formed a part of the coalition who moved this forward. I have spoken strongly to you the last couple of times I have come. It falls on deaf ears, it would seem. As a white South African, I learned to watch, to stop, to listen, to make eye contact sometimes when you would prefer perhaps not to. And I learned that it takes everyone, especially those who hold institutional power, to bring real change. If we become upset as those who hold power, when someone who has been completely disenfranchised, not just as an individual, but as a whole people for hundreds of years, if we become upset when that person displays their frustration or their anger, if we become judgmental when they show those emotions, we are asking them to be the good-colored. Shame, 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 shame for the heritage that this country has walked, for the prayers that are said at the opening of this council, for the humility we should show as we stand before our God. Shame. For the love of God, do better. Wake up. Remember why you sit in the seat you sit in. Please.
Thank you, Reverend. Reverend Joyce Penfield.
My name is Joyce Penfield, and I'm the co-chair of the Social Justice Committee of the Akron Area Interfaith Council, on the steering committee of the Akron Interfaith Social Justice Group, and a supply pastor, and my church is at Church of Our Savior. Recently, there was a study done, some of us have seen this in the paper, Akron Decides Survey. The number one concern of issues in this survey, 90%, was public safety and crime. And here we are, addressing public safety, and maybe we'll get to crime, and we're spinning in circles. Public safety for Black Akronites, people from Akron, is a matter of dodging bullets from police often. During the Jayland walk, I walked behind a young 10-year-old, I think she was 10-year-old female. This has always haunted me. On the back of her head, she had a white sign. It said, "I am not a target." A 10-year-old having to remind people that she was not a target, something to shoot at. We have a broken system when it comes to policing in this country and in this city. In Rhode Island, I worked with police, the commissioner, and others to address that system. They took accountability and transparency seriously. Our problem here is that we tried democratically to go to the people, to explain this to them, to get 61% of the vote on issue 10, to create a system, a democratic system, that would be accountable and transparent, at least a step in that direction. And now we're before 9 individuals who want to snatch it away, 6, 5, I don't know, whoever. They want to snatch it away. I want you to be focused and stay on track. The job is accountability and transparency to clean up the professional standards of policing. Many years ago, my second child, my 3 children are black. My second child was beaten up by 6 white policemen in New Jersey. I learned a lot from that. I learned, standing next to him, how he got treated so differently than I did, from one court, whatever, one point to another. And I decided I would try to work to restore this very broken system, embedded in its racism, embedded in its history, embedded in its legacy. And here we are trying to do that work. We've done what we could in the community. How can we believe in democracy if that gets tossed aside, or we get off track from just trying to get this review, give it a chance? Mr. Okolo has a law degree.
Reverend
Completed college, he has a law degree, and he deserves to be included and respected for the dignity and the professional standard that he brings to this committee, to the review board. I urge you to think carefully about moving forward so that democracy can continue to have some bit of faith among our young people in Akron.
Thank you, Reverend Penfield. Derek Stone. Thank you, Mr. Stone. Is Ren Kohler here with us? Ren Kohler?
Like many here tonight, I am here to speak for the land and share the pain and disgust my community feels at the anti-democratic and anti-life actions of Akron City Administration. With the advance of climate change, the mass loss of species globally and locally, and the very real threat of poisoning in our water and air from ecological catastrophe, just like in East Palestine, we need our forested wetlands now more than ever. And yet here we are today with the city's bargain bin clear-cutting service running heavy machinery through White Pond before the city has even answered the litigation put forth by citizens to save this precious green space. Make no mistake, the project is moving quickly for a reason, because there are things to hide and money to pocket. Multi-ton machinery is scouring the land before an up-to-date endangered species survey and wetland delineation has been completed, and certainly before we have a chance to see if historical indigenous mounds are on the site. Even with the trees cleared, this area will still be a wetland, more so now with the living trees slaughtered, no longer able to hold the substantial amounts of cycling water in their root system. It all comes back to the backdoor deals, out of the eyes of the public. Triton Properties has put money in the mayor's pocket through Alan Gaffney using wealthy relatives in California to donate to Horrigan's campaign. Speaking of hidden agreements, we know for sure that Fusco and Lombardo are acting at the behest of the Fraternal Order of Police to block Imukai Okolo, the only young black man from serving on the Citizen Police Oversight Board. He's arguably the most qualified candidate to be on it. A handful of old white men preventing Imukai from being on the board, whose strings are pulled by the FOP, is textbook definition of institutional racism. We can continue to collect data and observe real time. Policing doesn't work. It only disappears humans, not problems. It's not a crime deterrent, but a crime creator, as police presence harms communities and forces poverty, and especially in majority black and brown neighborhoods. Policing is one of the few industries where you get more money to be bad at your job. Failed police shootings are increasing, with law enforcement killing at least 1,176 people, or about 100 people a month in 2022, making it the deadliest year for police violence in our history. All of that money Akron funnels into its police force can be used to house, feed, and provide supportive services for its people, the things that actually reduce crime. Our communities need compassion and love, not authorized terror. Justice for Jalen, and we're going to save White Pond.
Thank you, Ren. Ben Gifford. Is Ben Gifford here with us?
How are you all this evening? So, my name is Ben Gifford. I'm with Ward 4, or I live in Ward 4. There's so much going on, and I would love to speak on the White Pond issue as well, but I've chosen to speak on the Oversight Board issue. It seems easy. It's 9 votes out of the body here to affirm that, I think, and I've got to wonder, what does Imukai Okolo represent to you who are dissenting? Why are you so stubborn? What are you afraid of one person in a body of 9? He is not a majority on his own. He is bringing a perspective of one person to this board, and as others have stated this evening, he is extremely well qualified. It seems that it boils down to, at least publicly facing, it boils down to an offhanded Facebook comment. It was maybe the only thing tangible that you all could scrounge up for him. A Facebook comment calling police officers a pig. And it stands to this kind of punitive mindset that we so commonly have, and why we are such a strong police state. And I don't say that as a compliment at all. There's a lack of curiosity as to why someone would have that lived experience and refer to officers that way. And it's absolutely disgusting that the first attempted replacement that I'm aware of for him was a cop. If this is a viewpoint that would be biased, well, the cop is certainly going to bring a biased viewpoint. The pearl clutching around this issue is just, I don't know if I've ever seen it before. You should want someone critical on this board if you really believe in making the community safer. When you have criticism, it doesn't mean it's not fair. It means you point out the flaws. It means you can improve what you're doing, and you can bring a better system to the people. Also, it's a finite term. I think all of you who are dissenting are being extremely disrespectful of the community's time and of your colleagues' time to put them through this, to be here till midnight last Monday, and we're going through it again. It is an amount of disrespect, and again, over what? Over 1/9 of appointing a young black man with a lived experience to this board. It is just absolutely shameful, and I am disgusted, and I will yield 30 seconds for what it's worth.
Thank you so much, Ben. Jacqueline Bleak, and again, if you can hold your applause so the people in the hallway can hear me. Thank you.
Hi, folks. My name is Jacqueline Blake. I'm a citizen in Ward 8. I moved to Akron in 2014. I have 2 points that I want to raise tonight, one of which is the Police Oversight Board. The other is the destruction of White Pond, which already began but really ramped up this weekend. So I'm lucky to live in Ward 8. I live across the street from the best park in Akron. And we used to have Akron Pride, and unfortunately it's no longer there. I remember the last Akron Pride that we had was in 2019. It was actually to commemorate Stonewall. So for those of you in the room who are unfortunately not gay, you may not be aware that Stonewall was actually a riot against police brutality and treatment of queer people. And in the same time that we're commemorating Pride, Stonewall, there is a police tower in the middle of Pride, just watching. I can't say I felt much safer. I appreciate that other folks feel safe calling the police. I'm so glad for you. That's not my experience. That day, I walked over to Circle K to get some Lawson's chip dip, as one does, and I saw a police officer in their personal vehicle pull out of Circle K, and y'all, I look both ways, okay? I live at a busy intersection. I know what I'm doing. And this cop pulled out so quickly towards me, their tires screeched. And you know, I'm sure they just had to be somewhere. I'm sure they were busy, but there were a lot of police there that day that really didn't want to be there and don't care about protecting queer people like me and many others. So I used to brag and tell people to move to Akron all the time. I haven't done that recently. A colleague who recently gained a position at the university where I work told me explicitly after this summer she was considering moving to Akron, but she didn't. She moved to Cleveland. And y'all, I just don't. I ended my comment last week by saying do the right thing, but clearly that's too much. So I'm just going to say do your job. For those of you who are voting no, and for those of you who are abstaining, I also want to make a comment briefly because I'm almost out of time. You have an election coming up in May, and I need you to get your books in order. I want to see all of the donations and where they come from. I want to know explicitly where you're getting your money from. And I'll let you know, I don't plan on looking at that for a few weeks, so you can take all the time you need, but it needs to be in place, okay? I need to know where the money is coming from, especially in regards to White Pond. Y'all, people don't want to move here for expensive housing and luxury shopping, okay? I'm not from here, but I've heard of what happens to malls in Akron, Ohio. I don't know what you're thinking, but do your job.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Is Anthony here with us? I'm sorry I cannot pronounce the last name. Anthony? Okay, thank you. Yes, come on.
Hi there, my name is Tony Pankush. I live at 1338 Weathervane Lane down in Merriman Valley. First off, I just want to give a shout out to Jeff Fusco, Brad McKittrick, Mike Freeman, Fel Lombardo, and Donnie Kamer. And you know what, I'll throw in Baylor too tonight for continuing to find new ways to betray the wishes of the people of the city that they're supposed to be representing. Additionally, I'd like to genuinely thank my ward's representative, Shamus Malik, for calling out the clear racism on display here. I proudly supported issue 10, and I firmly believe that this oversight board is a good thing for this city. But at the same time, I recognize that compared to the power that the APD wields in Akron, the power of this oversight board is minute. The oversight board has the power to issue non-binding resolutions. Akron police have the power to murder an unarmed man and then go right back to work. You 5 council members, Fusco, McKittrick, Freeman, Lombardo, and Kammer, have all caused this fuss because you're worried about one social media post by one candidate out of a 9-person oversight board with the power to issue non-binding recommendations. Do you have any idea how pathetic that makes you and the police union sound? You are behaving like scared children, and I cannot fathom why anyone in this city would want to be represented by you like this. I wish that the 5 of you put the same amount of effort that you're putting into this into instead keeping the 8 officers who killed Jalen Walker off the streets. Those of us who have been asking for real police reform, or dare I say abolition, want so much more than this. I want Okolo on this oversight board, but even his inclusion is the absolute bare minimum that so many of us are asking for. And you can't even accept that. It's shameful and cowardly. And by the way, in terms of campaign donations to one of the council members, I wish you had shown that same energy when all of us are highlighting the campaign donations that went to our mayor for the White Pond development, because you don't seem to have any problem with that. And that's all my time, at least all I have to say.
Thank you, Anthony. Is Lee here with us? Please, Lee. You only put Lee, so.
Hello, I said Lee. I did it on purpose. If you want to know my last name, investigate it, because it makes me kind of frighten me when I come up here. Got to protect my family. Don't know what you guys do. But anyway, I have heard people mention racism. That's something that goes without saying. You guys know what you're doing. You know, I'm old school, as the young buck said. But one thing about it, I see you guys over there, you're looking, you're glancing and everything, but nothing is actually hitting your heart. You know, God says he don't look at the man, he look at the heart of the man. So, you know, like with that right there, if you want to do something about this city, you will build. I heard one come up here and he say, build or rebuild. Believe me, you're going to do one of them. I would like to see you build. You know, I'm the CEO of an organization called True, and that consists of helping black men. Because if you actually stop to think about it, and if you really want to look into our community, they don't really have anyone to reach out to. That's why they run. It's not about CANA, AA. Young people don't go to that. And if you don't know that, let me be the one to tell you that. But one thing about it, and that is, I wish you would build. You got so an empty lot right there on Copley Road. I mean, to the point that you can park 55 cars there. Build something there in our neighborhood, in our community, that young black men can come to. I'm willing to do the job, and my team. I have a strong team. I don't mean young people, I'm talking about elders that have been there. I was a man of the streets. I'm not going to sit here and say that like I wasn't. I was one. God pulled me out of that. I'm trying to give back today, simply because before I leave this world, I want God to say, well done, my son. But as far as what you guys are doing, it is ridiculous. You know it. And the only thing you're doing as far as with Akola, you're passing time. You're trying to delay. You know, like, it's easy to recognize. Very, very easy. Only thing I have to ask you is, do you believe in fair? Say that when you go to bed tonight. Repeat it over and over. Fair. Fairness. That's all. Fairness. 1 Corinthians says, when you see the wicked in his wicked ways and you do not warn him of his wicked ways, I'll count his blood on your hand. That's true. That is the word of God. So therefore, I see you sitting there. Do it really mean something to you? I don't think so. You know, come up here, we try to keep it mannerly, show our mannerism. I believe in telling it like it is. You need to be hit right upside the head.
Thank you, Lee. Is Ralph here? Ralph?
Hello, council men and women. How's everybody today? And public. My name's Ralph Lee, and 63 years old. Part of my resume consists of being in prison for the last time for 10 years. I've been home for 21 years. I've been clean and sober for 17. When you talk about an answer, when you're talking about having an answer, when you dedicating your life to uplifting fallen humanity, I'm so tired of sewing up people. I'm so tired of fixing up people that has died. Yes, for the last 13 years, I've worked at the funeral home, Calhoun Funeral Home. And now I work at IBH. I got to be there tonight at 12 o'clock, you know, for the addicts that's in the city that don't know which way to go. But being a prime example, the one guy told me in prison one time, I had 9 years in, he said, I'm here to teach long-term imprisonment. The first question I asked him, how long did you do, sir? I've never been. I went to you can't teach me that. So I'm saying that to say, you know, being a part of the product, you know, speaking the language of our people, I'm scared to death to come outside sometimes at night because of the language that our people is talking now. Yes, the police may do this, police may do, but we got some young people, man, on the way here on Copley Road there. We got some young people that'll scare you to death, and that's only because of the language. You don't know nothing about her, just so happen I do. And just like the brother spoke about Troop Program, he's the CEO, and I'm what they call the vice president or whatever you want to call it, and we right here in the shopping center on Hawkins Avenue. Guess who's letting us use the place every Friday for 1 hour? Yep, Summit Health. You know, we in that building, Summit Health. They let us have 1 hour a week. And we have people that come and talk and deal with us and everything. But we need some help, man. We need a place where people can fit in. You know, I got the ammunition. I just need to know what to do about the help I'm gonna need. You know, now that I'm out the morgue, I don't work in the morgue anymore. I'm out at IBH. You know, and even with those being released, and even with those that's coming in, you know, they call me Unc, they call me old school, they call me a whole lot of things, but whatever they do, they put respect on my name. And I know the language again. And again, I'm just asking for help. You might as well help me because I ain't gonna stop coming. I'm gonna be here, I'm gonna deal with you because I want, you know, to be a part of the solution today other than a part of the problem. Like I say, I did 10 years in federal prison, but been home 21. I tore up the city, but I've been clean 17 years. I know what I'm talking about, and I know the people we dealing with. So, you know, if I had the not necessary help that I need, man, I can be a part of the solution, and that's what I want to do today. Peace.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lee. Jake? Jake? Jack, I'm sorry.
I just want to start by asking if everyone's awake, because I saw that you fell asleep last week on live cam and cut your feed right when we all pointed it out. Good to see you're awake. My name's Jack. I work down in Merriman Valley. I have been confused on what I wanted to say tonight. I didn't come prepared at all, but I think I'll just speak about this camera. I bought this camera downtown on July 3rd, 2022, to photograph the protests of Jayland Walker's murder. And I think it's fair for you to say murder. I don't think that other people should be controlling other people's language. If someone says something, that's what they said. And if you take that back, I understand. But at about 12:45 on, I guess it was 4th of July now, so at midnight, like 15 to 20 officers charged me for holding this and holding this. I was recording, so I have a video. I've sent it to Shamus Malik. He's been reaching out to me. I appreciate that. But 15 to 20 officers tackled me, beat me with batons and their riot gear, their shields, split open my head, my elbow, my hip, my knee, my ankle, bruised my back. Everyone who was injured that night was refused medical attention. No matter how much we asked, there's body cam footage that's been showed at trials where you can hear people banging on the doors asking for medical attention. The most traumatizing thing that night was I saw a man with a dislocated shoulder right outside my cell. And he was screaming. And eventually he just lost consciousness because Akron officers and Akron Fire Akron Fire actually came and helped, but Akron Police were just laughing. And, I mean, the reason I decided to talk about that is because, obviously, I support Amokai Akolo. I've had a conversation with him. Maybe if you want to do some research, converse with him. Converse with us. Like, we are here to talk to you guys. I don't know. I just want you guys to step up and help us out. Because if you guys help us, we will help you. It's not too late. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Nick Cassiopo, are you here? Nick Cassiopo?
Here he comes.
I really hate coming in here, y'all. This is pretty pathetic. First off, there's like 20 people standing downstairs outside with kids. They wouldn't let us go to the bathroom at all, so maybe we could find some way to like let the public be a part of a public meeting. If this building isn't big enough, because apparently only 45 people can be in the entire building at a time, maybe we should move it to the public library or somewhere where you could get everybody who's supposed to be here. Let's see. Yeah, I don't really, everything's been said. I really don't even know I'm talking. Y'all are just not great at all. I really don't even know what to say, y'all. A lot of people have said some really great things. I think the word abolition has been mentioned, and really I'm talking to most of the people who came here because clearly they don't listen. In our Constitution, there's a quote that says that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among people deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish and institute a new government. Now ask yourselves, does this government represent any of you? Really? They're deeply corrupt. Kamer, I appreciate you being one of the only people to talk about campaign contributions, but my God, like 4 out of the 7 tow companies that contract with the city have donated to you, so you are just as guilty as the rest of the people in this room, right? And it goes for everybody. Jeff Fusco, most corrupt man in Akron, dare I say, next to Mayor Horgan. Like, what gives, okay? Y'all throwing stones from glass houses. And that's just to say that, again, Shamus Malik pointed out last meeting, this board that we're fighting over has literally no power. I don't know about y'all, but I want a board that can't just tell us that the police are deeply evil and racist and murderous. I want a board that can fire them, that can prosecute, that can jail them, that can take their pensions. I want a board that can take every dollar that's in the police department and redirect it to the people, okay? So y'all don't stop fighting for the board. Like, push farther, because it's very clear that abolition is the goal, okay? We're not going to stop. These cops aren't going to all of a sudden be like, oh, we're not going to murder you anymore because the board might investigate them. That's not going to happen. And very clearly, again, as somebody pointed out, these racist white men are fighting over a board with zero power. They are so deeply racist and reactionary that they can't even take an olive branch and like rehabilitate the city's image. That's how dumb and racist they are, okay? So push past that. Get together. Talk to each other. We can build outside of this. Y'all want a board that can investigate the police? You can submit records requests. We can create our own board. We don't have to wait a year for them to get their act together, okay? So talk to each other. We can figure this shit out. Y'all suck.
Thank you, Nick. David Garan. And again, if you refrain from clapping because you'll miss your name, you'll miss your opportunity. David Garan.
Shame on you all. Last week, 2/3 voted for this. With a missing member, the 8 that voted for it, that was 2/3 out of 12. The law department has no idea what they're talking about. Also on White Pond, the law department missed a little thing that's in the charter in Title I. If something is not in the charter, then the ordinances apply. So those ordinances that apply to the council do apply. Until you change that charter, you're in violation. White Pond should not have gone through. If the developer sues this body, you deserve it. But you know what? The taxpayers are going to pay for it. And each time a police officer executes somebody, they are going to be able to go to civil court and get a huge judgment. And we're going to have to pay for it. At what time Italians were looked down upon. Things were against, they weren't allowed to have jobs and certain jobs, but eventually they became white people. Now you 4 white males, now 5 are part of the problem. Shame on you all.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. I cannot read the first name. Last name is Cook.
I'm not sure if any of you guys know, but there is an overflow room in the lobby downstairs because the building won't give us one. This is not a public meeting unless council makes the meeting accessible to the public. It is also very telling that this is the first time council has had this problem despite the fact that all of these meetings are supposed to be public. Why has nobody been coming to them previous to this? It's not surprising that this problem has not come up before because it is 100% clear that the council here represents their own interests and not the public's. We voted for this review board, and yet we faced opposition at literally every stage. Right from the beginning, from Shamus Malik admitting that he helped write the board to be completely toothless with no decision-making power because the community, in his words, wasn't ready for it, to Jeff Fusco attempting to get the rest of council to vote no on supporting the charter amendment despite the fact that that decision is up to us and not any of you. And now this, with last week 4 members refusing to approve a fully qualified appointee because of some behind-the-scenes decisions made with the very police force that this review board is supposed to be reviewing. And then at this meeting, there are even more members blocking this board's progression by abstaining from voting. This council, including members that pride themselves on fighting so hard for Mokai these last few weeks, voted through the development of the White Pond Reserve despite the massive and unignorable public disapproval displayed here in this council and out in the community. Today, 30% of the tree cover in that area has already been mowed down by Miller Logging, despite an ongoing lawsuit on the very legality of that vote. During one of these displays of citizen disapproval at council, Councilwoman Somerville ordered the police to disperse the gathered public. One can only assume that Ms. Somerville is allowing public displays of approval to this issue and not the White Pond vote because she didn't personally care about that one. While citizens were dispersed and being harassed and shook down by the police right outside this room, council unanimously voted through a ridiculous law requiring mandatory jail time for those who act in a way that scares a public official. Council members, the only thing you need to be scared of is the complete dissolution of your authority over us, the citizens. If even you cannot follow your own laws, how can you expect any degree of deference to your legitimacy as lawmakers? You cannot. You have no authority over us anymore. We will get justice for Jalen. We will protect all of those people facing charges for protesting his killing. We will save White Pond, and we will provide clean water and safe housing for each of our neighborhoods because you all refuse to. You no longer have authority over us.
Thank you. Is Kayla here with us? You can approach the podium.
Good evening. My name is Kayla Bowens, and I guess, what am I trying to say? I'm gonna have to use my mom and me. She likes to play devil's advocate a lot, so I'm gonna have to use that. I'm for abolishing the police, and she's for, oh, well, you know, if something happens, you know, and there's no police, what are we gonna do? I'm like, well, that's what we have to think about, because I'm a part of that generation where abolishing the police is the best idea. You know, justice for Jalen Walker, that, you know, it was unnecessary, it was uncalled for, it was very vile. We all know what common sense is, we all know what right from wrong is. And, you know, just because you have a job or a career doesn't mean that you hold anyone's life less valuable, or what am I trying to say? It's inhumane. It's inhuman. Just because, you know, just because you hold a position doesn't mean you get to do that to somebody. That many times, that many bullets, you know, I worked at the hospital and they were talking about how his body was just rolling after. So again, I am a part of that generation. Well, I'm a part for abolishing the police, and we have people my mother's age that are for keeping the police. What is the middle ground? What can we do? Because at this point, there's no reason for police in Akron anymore, I feel. If you guys are gonna do that, you know, I really, I can't be, you know, nobody wants to go out at night, nobody wants to be bothered, nobody wants to be here, nobody wants to give anybody any real time. And we just really need to, you know, that's the hardship that's going on, you know, like think, you know, like, oh, we got to do something. I know you guys came from Akron Public Schools at least, or the private schools. I know you guys know what right from wrong is, you know. I went to Garfield. I definitely know right from wrong. But, you know, if you want to be a police officer or someone to protect, maybe instead of being a police officer, maybe be a probate court officer, go to someone's house for mental illness, that sort of thing. But no, we don't need police. Thank you.
Thank you, Kayla. Is Lillian Barnes?
Good evening. I smell racism and corruption. Brad McCormick, Jeff Fresco, Phil Labrado, sorry if I'm pronouncing your names wrong, Mike Freeman, and now Donnie Kramer, that needs to be added to this shirt that I have on. Not last, but Clay Closer, FOP. We are tired, and all these children says, fuck the police, including mine. You all are upset about a comment by a young, intelligent black man who is a target as well by an officer due to him being black. This young man's name is Emo Kalai. He is the best option for our youth and our community. Our black community should not fear any police officer. They do not, I'm sorry, they do, and that's why we voted for this issue 10. And you are all being disrespectful towards this community by our votes. I will wear this shirt every single Monday if I have to support Emo Kalai. He needs to be on our citizen board. Keep in mind, them are our seats, not yours. We voted for y'all. We can vote your asses out. It's no good cop in a racist system, justice for Jayla and justice for Muhammad.
Thank you, Lillian. Is Ken Brooks here with us? Is Ken Brooks, if somebody can go down and see if they can get him? I'll come back to him. Okay, perfect.
I'm here again this week to thank y'all for exactly what I have telling y'all would happen. Y'all have just fanned the flames of this community to become more active, to be more involved in civic engagement, to get the racist patriarchy out of here that's been sitting here for years. People talking about decisions they made 15 years ago that they stand by. Just every week you prove and prove, and we appreciate you because we are going to be out there knocking on doors, getting votes. We will find independent candidates from your wards to get you out of there. We are tired of it. We won't stand for it. So I appreciate you. Thank you. Continue to keep up the good work. Show us who you are once again every week. Show us exactly who you are. You, and you. Thank you. That's all I got to say. Thank y'all for coming out too.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. It's one last one, and the Slater possibly, it's very hard to read. Jerome? Last name, Slater possibly. If not, what we're going to do is, I know we have a few people who are online with us who would like to participate, so we're going to give them an opportunity.
Madam President, James Quinn had originally signed up online, but I believe he's here in person.
Okay, perfect. James, come on forward.
Hello. So I was here last week, so there's really not much for me to say that hasn't already been said. But I do want to address a comment that was made last week. Mike Freeman, I'm addressing this to you personally. You stated that your vote wasn't racially related. I think that you should take an anti-white supremacy course to prove that your vote wasn't racially related. I think that you should have no issue taking a course like this if your vote was not racially related. This is a course that is offered for free by a lot of organizations such as the Freedom Bloc. So I invite you to take a course. If it's offered, I will reach out to you and email you with the invite link. But so I'm not really surprised with the vote this week or last week because, to be honest, there is no justice on stolen land, and that is what Akron is stolen land. So with that, I think I'm just going to read off the names that the city of Akron has been hiding from the public about who killed Jalen Walker. Specifically, Matthew Tyler Ritzinger, Corey Anthony Siegfirth, Dylan James Carmody, Joseph M. Philemon, Joshua Scott Getz, Judd Allen Bishop, Justin D. Trawick, Katie Lene Sweeney. If the city could confirm those names through the order that the chief issued, that would be very appreciated. If not, we don't really need it because we have the names. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Megan Lugo, are you online with us?
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
Megan, I'm going to swear you in real quick. If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Okay. Megan Lugo. I'm an IO psychologist. My expertise is in understanding work and performance and selection and how people behave at work. As an expert on social media use, you cannot use social media content when it comes to employment and other related decisions if one, it isn't related to the knowledge, skills, abilities, and other characteristics for the job, and if you do not use it for all candidates. Given this administration and council has no expertise in job analysis nor personnel selection, I doubt either of these were done. One could argue actually that criticism of policing is actually a necessary KSAO for this role of being on the Citizen Oversight Board, and I've seen nothing to suggest it isn't. Moreover, if policies are going to be consistent, why is it that people around the horseshoe are allowed partiality to the FOP, to developers, to donors, to the mayor, to your own pride and greed, and dare I say, to the white hoods you keep in your drawers, yet MLK is not allowed to speak out against a violent and racist system? Is it because you have loyalty to that instead of the people of Akron? And which brings me, I suppose, to my next point. On this administration and council, when we look at your performance, I don't know how all of you, with maybe a few exceptions, can say you've done the most basic tasks required of you, serving the people. We see it because, as far as I know, none of you have attended to any of the neighbors who are calling out for you to defend them against what's happening at White Pond. Neighbors suffering as their neighborhood is destroyed, and the cries go unlistened to in the name of economic progress. I suppose a euphemism for enriching the neighbors' friends and the mayor's friends and donors. We see neighbors saying that wildlife are fleeing into their yards and no one is helping them. You are failing to take care of the people. And not just certain members of council, but also the members of this administration who sit around the chambers. We ask you to do your job. That's it. It's a simple task. And if you can't do it, that's fine. Give your seats up to someone who will. Perhaps the actual leaders who are serving the people of Akron, likely sitting outside these chambers in the hallway, doing something you won't, which is actually enduring some pain and some difficulty to actually make this community a better place. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan Lugo. So that actually does conclude our public comments for this evening. I do want to thank everyone who came down, took their time to participate. At this time, we are going to move into our committee assignments. Rules, Councilman Freeman.
2 p.m.
Public Safety, Councilman Kamer. Budget and Finance, Councilman Freeman.
3 p.m.
Parks and Rec, Councilman Lombardo.
1:45.
Planning and Economic Development, Councilman Fusco. Housing and Neighborhood Assistance, Councilman Fusco. Public Service, Councilwoman Mosley.
2 p.m.
Health and Social Services, Councilwoman Amobian.
2:30.
Public Utilities and Green Committee, Councilman Freeman.
2:45.
Is there anything else coming before this body at this time? I do see Councilwoman Mosley.
Thank you, Madam President. First, I want to ask again, we never got any clarity on the abstention. If you want to vote no, just vote no. To abstain without reasoning is not what the rule says. It states that you have to give the reason. This has been asked before during committee meetings when people abstain. There's been times when Councilwoman Mobian has abstained because of her job, and she puts that on the record. There's been times when Councilman Freeman has abstained because of his job, and they've put that on the record. So what's the difference now? If you want to vote no, then just vote no. That's really what you're doing, is voting no, and that's okay if that's what you want to do. Just vote no, and not hold up this community to make it seem like it's for personal reasons. And if it's for a campaign contribution, that's not a reason, because people get campaign contributions and vote on stuff here all the time. Secondly, I want to encourage my colleagues to read the editorial from Tristan Reed, who wrote a wonderful article today, editorial rather, and he is one of the appointments for Mayor Horrigan. She is for Mayor Horrigan, and it's beautiful. I read it, and I just feel like we all should read it, because this is someone who is being picked by the mayor, who states that Imokai should be given an opportunity to serve on this review board. I don't want to forget anything. So if the intent is to find someone like a coli, like a Imokai, I don't think we're going to do that. So if the intent is to look for somebody who's going to be a step and fetch, good luck finding them, because you're not. Not right now. The city is awake. The residents are mad. They are tired. And we're not just talking about one segment of the community. We're talking about the whole entire city. I've gotten calls from people I wouldn't have never thought would call me about this issue. About this issue. And they're not just black residents. They're all the residents. They're upset. Have y'all not seen the people coming to this podium? This is not just a black issue, or we're just trying to get the black guy in. That's not what's going on. The residents are sick and tired, and they have a right to be. And I want to touch a little bit on what Councilman Kamers said about the campaign contributions, and this has been a talk down here for quite some time about campaign contributions, and we can even talk about the businesses who gave money against Issue 10, who have given people around this horseshoe money. That has happened. So if we were to talk about campaign contributions, maybe we should be talking about Russ O'Neill's rules piece. And you don't even need us for that. Like, if you want to call for Ohio Ethics Commission investigation, you don't need this body to do that. That's a simple request. I suggest do it. If we've done nothing wrong, we shouldn't mind being investigated. I've been investigated. I mean, you all remember that when I first came to council. So let's talk about the money now. We might as well pull it all the way back now, and let's talk about who's getting what. And lastly, this may be for the law department. We may have to go into executive session about it. White Pine, I've been getting the videos. They are tearing down trees. We are in the middle of a lawsuit. I didn't know they could be on that land while we're in the middle of a lawsuit. Correct me if I'm wrong, Judge, you would know. But we may need to go into executive session for that, because there is activity going on that property back there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Lombardo.
Thank you, Madam President. I think if I hear that this vote is about being a racial issue, I think I'm going to lose my lunch. This issue has nothing to do with race, but everything to do with how we apply for jobs in this world. From my perspective,
Please, guys, if you could maintain order, okay? I appreciate it. Thank you.
again, from my perspective, how we apply for jobs. I'll give you a quick review, and you can let me know if I'm off base, but you know, when applying for a job, we submit a stellar resume, and then we hope to land an interview. After we clear those two hurdles, your potential employer has the right to take a number of actions. They could do a background check on you. They could, check your character references. They could ask you to submit a drug test. And then in this day and age, they could also check your social media accounts. I mean, again, am I on target or am I off base here? But, you know, this has nothing to do with a racial issue. Come on. I could care less.
Please, I'm going to ask that you please maintain order.
I don't care if the person is red, green, blue, or yellow. I don't care if they have blonde hair.
Let's take a pause. Let's just take a pause for a minute, because I know emotions are on high, but we have to remind you that this is an official meeting, and we have to conduct ourselves accordingly, okay? So please be respectful and allow Councilman to finish his comments.
Again, I don't care if they have blonde hair, red hair, gray hair, or no hair. It doesn't matter to me, but I bet you a dime to a donut, if there was an emergency situation, every one of us would pick up our phones and punch in a 3-character code. And it's not BCI, it's not CRB, Citizens Review Board, it's 911, right? In other words, AFD, APD, please help me. So if you need help someday, I think it's best not to blast the people out on Facebook or any other social media. Again, I'm not defining Mr. Okolo by that one social media post. I'm just disqualifying him. Thank you.
Any other comments? Councilman Fusco?
Yeah, thanks. Just that I would like to remind everyone that, during a time whenever we are litigating or a lawsuit is pending, we really should not talk about those type of situations. I believe we all are aware of that, and that's just protecting the city's budgets. Speaking of such, in terms of the budgets, tonight was the first time I've seen in a long time, I guess, that one was challenged in terms of, and I do appreciate whenever we have people tell why they abstain on something, and they explain why they're abstaining. Oftentimes, though, as we all around this horseshoe know, that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. We've seen people abstain on tough issues. We've seen people abstain on budgets. We've seen people abstain every week on just the simple minutes of our meeting. And those individuals, that individual is never called upon the carpet to say, why did you vote against the budget? Why did you know what I'm saying? It's like, like I said, it just seems interesting to me that tonight, the first night, that all of a sudden we're asking about abstaining and just have a bit of a problem with that. This is broken. This is broken. I think everyone here can agree it's broken. I think the thing of it is that's important to draw. We would have been done last week if we only needed 7 votes, and we need 9. And and a lot of misinformation was mentioned and has been mentioned in terms of many individuals who were coming forward who worked on the campaign. That's being said. One of the things, though, that is most disturbing is that is our conversations and what is being said. It seemed as though tonight really reached. I know what word I want to use, but I'm going to try to be judicious with it. But some of the things that are said tonight, it really breaks my heart, because we should be respectfully talking to one another, listening to one another. And what's happened is there's words being used tonight that ought not be used in the public domain. I believe, and I understand emotions are high, and I respect that. But the thing of it is that there's, like I said, it really reached a level tonight that's really disturbing in terms of our discourse. And I don't believe for one second that all of Akron is against us on this. I don't believe that for one second. All of Akron is unsettled. I respect those that come down. I've always respected differing opinions and willing to listen how, people's opinion of us and of me personally, and we understand, we signed up for this. Those individuals They didn't sign up for this, we did. But the thing of it is that we do, this is broken. And you know, we had something in place that we were ready to move on and get oversight board. And I believe everyone here does want to see an oversight board. Everyone here wants to see that. We understand that. Then again, as evidenced by that recent poll, and everyone is concerned about policing, about crime, about violent crime. And I don't see how, whenever we are going, defunding, I don't see how that's going to work. But then again, conversely though, and I believe all of us will, in fact, we will seat this board eventually. That's going to happen. And we're going to really have to watch how they do. And there's going to be reappointments over the years. And continuous improvement. We all want continuous improvement. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Neal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This afternoon in Rules, a resolution came in and folks were asking where was the supportive documentation. We're going to vote on this resolution next week, and the supporting documentation for this resolution was all stated this afternoon by our colleagues. The reason why I brought in a resolution is because it was my hope that we as a body could show some empathy for our constituents and put ourselves under the same scrutiny that we put our police department under. And for those who haven't seen the resolution reads as such. It's a resolution requesting Akron City Council and the city's administration submit itself to an independent audit by the Ohio Ethics Commission and Ohio Attorney General's Office for the purpose of reviewing City Council and administration's policies, practices, and procedures in order to reestablish trust and confidence of the citizens of Akron and our business community partners in declaring an emergency. It says, whereas Akron City Council and administration have found it necessary to scrutinize and reimagine public safety and the City of Akron's police department and its policies and practices, and whereas the citizens of Akron, Akron City Council, and the city administration found it necessity to establish a Citizens Police Review Board to further audit future policies and practices that violate citizens' trust, and whereas recent and historical practices of both council and administration have breached the trust of citizens of Akron, so much so that citizens have publicly voiced votes of no confidence, citing what appears to be evidence of pay-to-play politics, the disrespect of citizens' basic rights by disingenuous negotiations and citizen engagement, as well as the continuous violation of council's own rules and the city's charter. There's more to the resolution, but it was my hope that we as a body could put ourselves under the litmus test that we put our police department under. Not to be punitive, but to show good faith effort that we want to be a transparent body, that we want to practice good, best government practices. We weren't reimagining public safety to be punitive to our police department. It was to make sure that we were practicing best practices. So I'm hoping that next week when we vote on this, if you need substantiating documentation, just remember what our constituents said across the podium. So that we, any citizen, any one of us could call in the Ethics Commission, the Attorney General, or other bodies to investigate us. But it was my hope, and it is still my hope, that we as a body, again, could use the same litmus test that we use with our police department on ourselves to make sure that we are functioning in good faith. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman. Is there anything else coming before this body at this time? Councilman McKittrick?
A second to Mr. Fusco's previous motion.
Okay, thank you so much. If there are no objections, this meeting is adjourned.
This concludes the live broadcast of Akron City Council. Margot Somerville, President of Council, presiding.